Hello, everyone. Oh, ethereal. Oh, welcome to Melbourne Musos Fest. You're glad the first one for the year. Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name's Chris Quinlan, as I said, and this is a little bit more on the ethereal side, as you can see or hear by the beautiful Bansarai pad of the same kind of thing that Ian Anderson Jethro Tull plays. A little Bansarai and Sully flute. But what I'm doing tonight is all about ambience, getting started for the year. Ooh, there was a time when I used to go away for 2 weeks holiday, not play drums and sort of start getting really edgy. You know, you've heard of hangry. If you're hungry, I used to get I can't even pronounce, I don't even know what to say. Drum angry. I haven't played my drums, I'm going all funny. And what I used to do when I used to come back from wherever it was that I was going, I would sit down with this little morsel of a book here. George Lawrence Stone, Stick Control. Who's been through this book? And for close to a decade, what I would do is go away for Christmas holidays or whatever it was that I was doing. And then I'd come back and hit the practice pad with this little morsel here, and basically a page a day. Just sit there, and then I'd go cook lunch or something like that. And what would happen is that that would get my chops back. Now, Stick Control for the Snare Drummer by George Lawrence Stone, very hackneyed old booklet. That's my original from my teens. And copyright 1935. It's one of the greatest drum books and drum practice things ever written. It's fantastic. And it's just page after page of work. And what would happen is I just sort of do that for this time of year, okay? And get the chops back before all the kiddies come back from their holidays and say, have you practiced? And they went, no. No. Anyway, there you go. So let's just get them back into it. Oh, you need to play Stick Control. I want to change to guitar. Anyway, that's what anyway, so there you go. But what I've done in recent years is actually talked about different things. I put this beautiful book away. Beautiful. Now, what would happen? What I started the show with is a lot of ambience. And one of the things that I do here, as you well know, is use my triggers and everything. And what I'm doing here, I finally met up with my little my old prog rock mates the other day, everybody. Hello, Ange. Hello, Kevin. You know, hello, John. And there you go. And a shout out to Matthew as well, who should have been there, but he couldn't make it. I think he lost his sheep. Seriously, I think my sheep got out of the paddock. Anyway, what happened? I don't know if there was a joke there, but anyway, there you go. Hello, Matthew. There you go, if you're watching. And what happens is we all got together and we watched the King Crimson at 50 doco. You know, sort of thing, because we're all prog rock nuts. And that got me to thinking about what we do here. And what happens is the last couple of weeks here, and one of the shows that I made is Yash Money Penny, less is more or less. And there used to be a bit of a joke that I used to say, because we all get it, all of us drunk. Less is more, man. Yeah, because more they can't do. You know, can you tab it out? And sorry, pardon me. I've lost half my audience. Hello. But what goes on is sometimes less is more is made up of a lot of notes creating the threshold. Yeah. And what would happen is, as I said with the Bansuri pad that I've got there on the computer, if you were just hearing that by itself, you would think that it's just the keyboard player just holding it down and working the volume up and down. But no, I'm playing many notes here to create one big note there. Double stroke roll. And when I was watching the King Crimson doco with the 3 drummer lineup, there was plenty of footage of them there on their practice pads before the big show. Going through there, I noticed that there was flam taps and Swiss triplets, that sort of thing. But one of the things about Rudiments is that there's also something that I talk about is the vertical and the horizontal. I've talked about it a bit, but I'm going to take it a step further. When we're playing on one drum and we're playing a single stroke roll, it's vertical, it's up and down, you've got to try and keep it like a volume control, which I've talked about. But then there's the horizontal when you go around the drums. Less is more. Anyway, so what goes on is that what you have there is a way of getting an ambient, ethereal, everything happening, but now with your the vertical and the horizontal, what starts to happen is that the rudiments are now getting spread out. Now when you're talking rudiments and you're talking about, say, the 40 pass rudiments and things, you have your single strokes, like a single stroke roll. The Americans like to call it a single stroke 4 and a single stroke 7 and all that, but we grew up calling them roughs, a la the Buddy Rich interpretation of the 26 standard rudiments, which is the other book up there. Probably should have brought it up, but this is more of an ethereal thing. I started with the stick control. They're all of the same family, and there you go. Get stuck into them through January to get your chops back up for the rest of the year. And what goes on is that you have your single strokes, then you have your double stroke rudiments, which is, all your rolls, your 5-stroke roll, 7-stroke, 9, 11, 13, 15, the list goes on. It's just a double stroke roll, but knowing when to stop, you see. So if I went 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. So what I've got is 3 groups of 4. 1, 2, 3. So 3 4s are 12. 1 to finish is a 13-stroke roll. So there it is there around the drums. There it is. But because I'm now doing the horizontal, by going, that 13-stroke roll now is a kind of a melodic rudiment because I've added the triggers as well. Now, when you're actually talking about some of the great prog rock classic bands like King Crimson, all the stuff they do in unison. Ooh, 21st century schizoid man. And then you get dun 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 dun. And on it goes. And when you're actually listening to the 3 drummer lineup, all the unison, they have a little piece called Drumzilla. There you go. And what goes on with that, I'm rambling a little bit, I'll get back onto it. When you're getting around, you can do different things with it, you see. Now, I've talked in the past about doing things like when you're actually playing rudiments and you get into things like the flam rudiments sort of thing, the diddle rudiments and everything else rudiments, what it starts to happen is you might have a single stroke roll. Now, I did this late last year, but when you move to a different thing, like an empty sound, when you're going to a cymbal, you can hear tap, 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 one-iana, one-iana. One-iana? One-iana, two-iana, three-iana, four-iana, one-iana, two-iana. But when I go to a cymbal, ba-da-da, 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 flams. And that's in stick control, mate. Hey, hoo-ha. And what starts to go on with that is that you're filling out the empty sounds by putting in flabs. Oh! So that's what goes on. So what you have is you've got your vertical and horizontal. But when you start putting things in like that to create the melody and stuff, you start to come up with this other thing called hybrid rudiments. And you could, for all intents and purposes, they're compound rudiments. You put one on top of the other, you see. So if you've got a paradiddle, put a flam at the beginning. Flamadiddle, 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 flamadiddle. Then you can have a dragadiddle, which is the double tap. Now, these change depending on whether you're looking at the original rudiments with the roughs and the rolls, and then all of a sudden you've got the 40 pass rudiments. They change some of the names, you know, that kind of thing. That just makes it confusing for everybody. And but what it is still learn them. I mean, you just adapt. But what happens is a hybrid is where, let's say I take a triple paradiddle, so it could be right, left, right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left. But how about if I do a paraflamma dragadiddle, paraflamma dragadiddle? That is now called a hybrid rudiment because you're putting them together. If you go to places like the Vic Firth website and things like that, there's a whole page on hybrids and stuff. They have all cheese chains and the cheese. Where's the cheese? Now, I've been talking a long time. A lot of what I do is based on split rudiments, and where you simply take a rudiment like a paradiddle and put them between two surfaces. Could be a cymbal, it could be anything at all. That's not new. But when you start overlaying them, it's a new thing. So I'm taking the horizontal and the rudiment split. And there you go. So that's what starts to happen, and you start to create little melodies and things like that. Now, what goes on with this is this comes down to everything that King Crimson is so famous for. They're one of the great prog rock bands, been around forever, late 60s. And many wonderful people in there. Now, when we're doing things like this, we're starting to get into this kind of ethereal, heavenly sounds. which leader of King Crimson, Robert Fripp, and his friend Fripp and Eno. A lot of people know him more as a producer of many famous albums. First came to prominence with an early incarnation of Roxy Music. Then collaborations with said Mr. Fripp, and Mr. Fripp started to call it Frippatronics. And what they did was take a Revox A77 tape recorder and basically get two of them and loop the tape around so that you get these endless loops. And we do it now with looping. And I've got a jam man over there, and you just do the overdub, and it keeps coming back depending on how long the loop you want. As soon as things went digital, so did Fripp in the early 80s, but there is still footage of him in 80 and 81 doing Frippatronics with the tapes. He's just got his guitar there, and he's got his two tape decks, and away he goes. He used to play anywhere, coffee shops and churches, all sorts of things. And it would just loop. And it was Fripp and Eno that showed him the effect or the thing, but it predated even Eno, because it was the Beatles that started up with two tape decks and doing it unison. But no matter how precise and how beautiful and how wonderful the tape deck is, there's always going to be a between the motors, and that's how flanging was invented through the Beatles during the Sgt. Pepper's sessions, I believe, when they started to do lots of things with tape, all that business. And that even precursors them back to Edgar Varese and people like that, who happened to be Frank Zappa's favourite composer. So what goes on? Let me quickly recap before I move on to part 2. What we have is Rudiments, starting out the new year, getting your hands back together. Stick control. Get onto the practice pad. There's the the vertical. Then what I do now is the horizontal, because I do lots of melody. Big ass Doris here. The reason I got lots of drums is because you see, when you're actually wanting a note, when you're playing, say, a synthesizer, get the teeth in, Grit, and they are mine. But anyway, but what happens? But what goes on is that you have a little key like that for your synthesizer. And but what happens is when you want to go wow, wow, wow like that on a drum kit, on the real thing, you've got to get a big ass drum. So to get the sounds on a drum set, you need something that big, 3 tom-toms, let's say, or 4, like that. But a synthesist can just have 4 keys right there. Meow, meow, like that, you see. Who's cheating? I got that the other day. Oh, I use these little apps here. That's cheating! Piss off. So what happens is the aforesaid Fripp and Eno, sorry, went up an octave there. What happens is that with these triggers that I have in the interfaces, you're able to do all these wonderful things, but to be able to really get it happening, you've got to get your vertical chops together, and which is why stick control starts the tonight's show. There you go, and that's what goes on here. Now, these particular notes, as I said, the Bansuri pad, but what I've got it to is an F-sharp Phrygian mode, which is the 3rd mode of all the modes. And it's the 3rd mode, the home Ionian mode, the home scale, is in key. If F sharp is the third step, that means I'm playing in D, but F sharp to F sharp. The Phrygian mode formula is 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, octave. And what happens with that? It's got 4 flats in it, you see. Now, when you talk about the normal natural minor scale, it has 3 flats in it with the formula. You have the first, the second, the flat third, the fourth, fifth, the flat 6, flat 7. It's got 3 flats. So by any stretch, the Phrygian is a little bit of a darker minor. If you go back to the Dorian mode, it's only got 2 flats, so it's a light minor, you see. I've done plenty of shows on modes, but that's what goes on. Check them out; they're beautiful and all that. And it's not like you need to learn 100 scales or 100 fingering patterns or anything like that. They all come from the major scale. So learn your major scale in all the positions, you know, and then just know what your root note is. You're rolling. There you go. So what goes on? I'm taking a leaf out of Robert Fripp and Brian Eno. Roll your R's, Chris. And now I'm going to talk about them. And what happens here is I'm going to put on a bit of ambient. Fripp and Eno is a musical side project composed of Brian Eno and Robert Fripp. The duo have released 4 studio albums, beginning with the 1973 album No Pussyfooting. The music created by this pair is entirely instrumental and has made extensive use of Frippatronics, a tape delay technique combined with Fripp's guitar, the Fripp pedal board, and the Frizz box, with subsequent sound treatments by Eno. There you go. Along with Eno playing various keyboards, synthesizers, and modified Revox A77 tape recorders. There you go. They've got 4 albums out. They've got No Pussyfooting, Evening Star on vinyl. I've got that. The Equatorial Stars in 2004, and the 4th one called Beyond Even, also known as the Cotswold Gnomes. You'll work out why I did that later. And there you go. And what you have is this wonderful soundscapes, ambient music. Now, Brian Eno is also very famous for getting into any kind of new technology, and he's come up with 3 apps. I'll turn this down now because I'm going to show you these apps. I've shown them to you before, but this is new in reference to tonight's subject. Ambient music. Brian Eno's first app was a thing called Bloom, and here it is here. It's a wonderful little thing, and you can listen and create. You've got select mode, classic, infinite, freestyle, and there it is. It's started up. You can listen or you can create. I'll press create. There it is there. There's your soundscapes. Beautiful. Spoken word is beautiful over the top of this. Robert Fripp and Toya Wilcox have got an album out from the mid-'80s called, that's their partners, called The Lady or the Tiger, and it's a very long poem, and they did all this business to Toya Wilcox reciting the poem. Wonderful stuff. And then when you press the button, you can see it here. Do you see? There it is. It'll repeat itself. There it is there. You can put something to that. I might be a little bit atonal. That's me. what I'll do is take that out now and go to home. There you go. And that is Bloom. Ooh, ethereal. There you are. And now I'm going to go to the second one, just slightly darker. This is called Trope. I'll do this one. And Brian Eno's partner here is Peter Chilvers, who does things like this. There he is there. There you go, if you can see it. And I'll create with this one. This is a little bit different. This starts out with the backing. Ooh, I'll turn it down. As I said, a bit darker. And instead of the little dots and things like this, you can slide on this. Up there is high, down there is low. And then you can do a little circle. And then you just tap. There you go. All right. There you have it. That's Trope. Lots of things happen with that one. They repeat themselves. There it is. Ooh. And then, Eno would start something like this up, have it go for a few minutes and build up the mood, and then Fripp would come in with his sustainer pedal. And then he had, I believe his guitar is a Fernandez sustainer with a sustainer pickup, so he just hits it and it just goes on forever. Great way to do that. I have an EBO over there. I'll put it up here. I should have brought it in, but there it is, an EBO. You just put it on and away you go. It just sort of creates the continuous sound, and you're basically sliding, you're doing your scales up and down one string perhaps. So that starts another kind of technique. Not only do you play your scales like that, but you've also got to go up and down as well. There you go. And what happens is that you have this kind of app as well, which is born out of what Fripp and Eno were able to do in the early 1970s. Their first album, which is still revered to this day, is No Pussyfooting from 1973, up there. And then they did Evening Star up there, vinyl over there, and as what I said before, the other two. But there's, and then it begat into, went off into music for airports and things like that. And Fripp developed into soundscapes and Frippatronics, which is very famous. And in the late 70s into the early 90s, he was late 70s into the early 80s, he was quite famous for it with his, as I said, the aforementioned 2 tape recorders. And now it's a staple of his style. Just when you're getting comfortable with King Crimson playing at 100 miles an hour, all of a sudden he'll just play one note for ages, and you just go like that. In many cases, especially in the early 2000s incarnation with Adrian Belew, he would just come on stage unannounced while the audience, with the big lights up and the audience was just coming in, and he would just quietly sit there and start to play his soundscapes with the audience going, bloody hell, that's Fripp right there now, that kind of thing, and sit down in stunned silence, and the rest of the band would come out. So he's the support act for his own band. There you go. And that's what goes on there. That is Trope. You see, you can put that up. Find the tonal center, you guitarists and everybody else out there. What I'm doing here is using the threshold, which I've explained before, of the triggers. If I hit one a bit harder, went above 4 or 5. like that little concoction. There you go. And that's Trope. Lots of different things you can get that. Buy it now. And I'll take that out. I'll go to the third one. You guys know this, guys and gals out here, because I use this one a lot. I quite like it. It's beautiful for all the, when I go down my Celtic side of things. This is Air. The beautiful Sandra O'Neill and once again Peter Chilvers again. Based on concepts by Brian Eno. You can conduct, you can listen, you can do all sorts of things with that. I often put it on listen. It's got different kind of voices and things, but it's all her. But you come up with this sort of kaleidoscopy kind of thing. There it is there, if you can see it. And you press something. There's the piano. And then there it is there, you see. That's her. Do you see? There it is there. And now I'll put it on listen all. There it is there. Dramatic. got into that bit there. I'm going a bit over time. I'm going to do this because I'm hoping a few colleagues of mine might put some spoken word over the top. So I'll go a little extra. So, let me recap. Oh, there you go. So there's the ambient apps from Brian Eno, and there you go. Now, I'm talking about Fripp and Eno, and by my research, doing the research, which I absolutely adore doing, I just get lost in it, really. And what happens, I've got this little thing here. In 2015, Fripp and Eno were ranked number 17 on Rolling Stone's list of the 20 greatest duos of all time. There you go. Wow. There you have it. So all the great duos, Simon Garfunkel, Lennon and McCartney, probably, if you're thinking like songwriters, I suppose. I don't know, I've got to look at the list. Oh, I've got to research that now. As far as duos, so, you know, that's the influence. Like it or not, whether you think it's cheating or anything like that, you've got to remember that it exists, okay? And they use the technology of the time. Their forebears were the Beatles in the 60s. Oh, we got flanging. Their forebears was Edgar Varese and tape effects. And Stockhausen, Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, which were a great influence on the Beatles as well. That's where all the effects came in on psychedelic, you know. Number nine, music concrete. So there's a whole world out there. And then when you're dealing with things like Robert Fripp and the Frippatronics, you've got to remember one thing. You think, you know, this might be completely crazy and completely half-assed and all this sort of stuff. You've got to remember, have a listen to David Bowie's Heroes. Who do you think's playing lead guitar there? And have a listen to it. So when we're talking one of the greatest singles of the last 50 years, you know, Heroes, just for one day, you've got to remember who was actually playing on that album. So, and next thing, go off now. Go off. It's a great day to be inside. In the studio, Studio 10, that kind of thing. But I'll try and take the pooch to Doggy Beach tomorrow. But I took him yesterday, but during the cold bit. It was sunny when I left. Anyway. I've got a couple of things happening. I'll go over my little notes here. Robert Fripp, Frippatronics. Triggers, Indian Bansuri, flute and pad. F-sharp, Phrygian mode. And the third step, there you go. And if it's in particular F-sharp, you're really just playing D major from F-sharp to F-sharp. You've got to remember the root note, though. There's more to it than just that, but still, if you're going to do it like that, that's the way to do it theoretically. It opens up a world for you, you know, instead of I see so much on YouTube. Here's the Mixolydian mode, and here's the thing, and they've got all this special. And I'm going, it's just the bloody major scale, mate, from the fifth. Get to know a bit of theory, and the world opens up. I tell you, tells you what. There you go. And Eno apps, I've done that. Bloom, Trigger, Air, I've done all that. The Rudiments, vertical, horizontal, hybrid Rudiments, where you add them on top of each other. And then when you go the horizontal, they become melodic. And then you split them up, you hear one side. Fingers. I haven't even really mentioned samplers either. Threshold. Tune cymbals. Three blind mice. See how they run? I'm going over time tonight because I want to do a couple of extras. I might do a little instrumental. I'll keep on going if you're still watching. Audience, here's another one for you. I'll just do something a little bit different. Oh, I've got a bit of fluff. Lucky me. Oof. There you go. you enjoyed that concoction. So I love and leave you. My name's Chris Quinlan and welcome to Melbourne Musos Facebook Live. The first one for 2023. I went a bit overboard and over time, but that's all right. Fripp and Eno, go check them out. Ambient.